Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this very interesting little knife right here. This is the Nadeau SharpByDesign Typhoon Evo. Evolved Evolution. First off, though, I want to thank very much my Patreon patrons who are making it possible for me to check this little guy out. You know, $300 knife comes up for pre-order. Sure thing! Yeah, I better do that. So, thank you very much for that. I also want to thank my buddies Frankie and Bert over at the Birdshot IV channel for making this possible in that they just said, hey, Dick, we'll buy yours off you at the end, which is beautiful. No bath at the end of it. And then finally, I want to apologize. I've been sick as a freaking dog. I'm finally coming out of that, but you're going to see me doing things like, running out of breath and coughing and, sniffling, that kind of thing. But it's okay. I'm on the better end of the cold here. So we'll start off by doing a little bit of a size comparison. Here it is against your Spyderco Delica, your Ontario Rat number 2, and your Spyderco Paramilitary 2. So you can see here, size-wise, this is not a tiny knife here. We are coming in a very, very reasonable sort of size. With, what the heck's the blade length on this guy officially measure out at? Like 3.75-ish, something along those lines. So there's your size on it. Not a tiny knife or what, so freaking ever. Next thing, what the heck's a SharpByDesign? That is, your Brian Nadeau. Here we go. This little guy right here. His business card and whatnot. Really got nice guy. Well, nice guy generally speaking. He's a regular guest on the Knife Nuts podcast and whatnot. Well, host, I suppose. But he's also a decent human being. I met him at Blade Show, and I've handled a bunch of his work on a couple of different occasions. Always pretty impressive. I'm a big fan of his, and I actually reviewed the micro... Was it the micro or the mini? I don't freaking know. Whatever his knife is, it was big. At least by my standards. I reviewed some of the other versions before previously, and this guy is actually different than a lot of his work in that this is being made by Rayot. Brian usually is doing things one-off at a time in his shop over there in, I think, Jersey, but this one is being made by Rayot Knives over there in China. And so let's go on ahead and talk about the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little pocket knife right here. So to start with, on the good side, the price of this guy is actually solid. We are at $300. That's a lot of money, but look, it's M390. It's beautifully milled. You're not really getting a whole lot better knife for $300 right now. I'm hard-pressed to give you something else that would be a better value than this, so it is a fine price. In fact, I would go so far as to say that it is a good price. I would not feel remotely bad paying $300 for this. This actually feels like a decent deal at $300. Next thing, you've got some options here. You get 3 different handles, as well as 3 different blades. So for the handle, you can get a milled out one where there's some holes here. You can get some embossing where it's like the titanium's pulled out a little bit. And then you can get the carbon fiber inlay, which is the one that I chose here for this little guy. And then for blade shape, you can get the drop point, like this guy is here, a Japanese Tanto or an American Tanto blade. Both of those are there. This is the version I found most attractive, so I went ahead and picked it up. And I think it was the most attractive one, but, hey, that's just me. Next thing, low-key lanyard hole. This has a lanyard hole. It is relatively low-key. Not as in the Norse God, but instead as in the, it doesn't stick up much, and if you don't want to use a lanyard, it's not obtrusive. It's not problematic, so that's good. Next thing, blade on this guy, M390. Not labeled as such, but it absolutely is, and it has a great grind. With a beautiful sharpening choy, you can see this comes down to a super thin edge, which is amazing coming out of Rayot. That's not how they normally do things, but oh my god, is the grind here good. Really, really, really nice work. And so I'm loving the blade on this 100%. It is very good for cutting. Next thing, the clip on this guy is good to go. It is a beautiful milled clip, and I mean beautiful, both in the functional sense as well as in the practical sense. This hangs nicely in the pocket with relatively little... This clip is just amazing. Absolutely 100% very, very nice. So I love the clip. That's all there is to say about it. Next thing, this is using the Brian Nadeau SharpByDesign detent. You can see in there is no ball at all. In fact, there is just a little milled prominence area there, which means that when you actually go to shut the knife, there's no detent ball ramp needed because the detent area has a ramp built into it. And it works great. It gives you this amazing, crisp, beautiful action, which requires absolutely no wrist. I mean, this is, I cannot make this knife fail to flip. It is a great detent. It is unusual. No one else is making detents like this by and large, and I just love seeing Brian having Rayot do this. It would have been real easy for him to kind of, well, what the heck, let's save some cash and just do a conventional ball detent, but this just works better. This is one of the better detent systems out there, and I really, really appreciate him using it here. Really, really nicely done there. Big fan of that. Then finally, on the good side, and this is kind of a weird thing to have on the good, but it is. This is made by Rayot, but it doesn't have any of Rayot's usual issues. So, for instance, it has a very thin blade grind, so it cuts beautifully. That's normally an issue that they have. There is no thread locker at all on this. That is normally a big issue that they have, and it's not a case here. The pivot on it is not free spinning. That's a beautiful thing. This is really Rayot allowing their great work to shine. Very, very often when they make knives for people, even as OEM work like this, they tend to, well, cap it off with a gunshot wound to the back of the head, so to speak, by doing stupid things like thread locking it shut or grinding the blade badly. But this is really, if every knife from Rayot was like this, I would be shouting about Rayot from the rooftops. I would be a big, big fan of their work. So I really, really hope that this represents progress for Rayot, as well as an amazing knife from Brian Nadeau, because this is the best thing I've ever seen Rayot make, and I hope that everything in the future that they do is as good as this in terms of not having those fouls there. So, and all the credit in the world to Brian to making sure this comes out right, even despite that. So, nevertheless, those are the good things. They're none of Rayot's usual issues. The Nadeau detent is great. It has a great clip, a great blade, a low-key lanyard hole, 3 different handle and blade options, and the price on it is pretty solid. To me, on the great side here, this is just excellent. Look, I was just giving Rayot some crap, but at the end of the day, they can make a really nice knife. Everything on this knife is done, as far as I'm concerned, perfectly. The detent is amazing. I don't say that often, but it's really true of the Nadeau detent. It has the feeling of just like a very crisp, it's a beautiful freaking thing. And then the action on it is absolutely gorgeous. It drops shut in a wonderful way. I absolutely love every element. Then the inlays here. The inlay work is amazing. So often you'll get little tiny gaps or issues or areas where it's not flush, and you don't here. The clip is beautifully milled, and this is just a knife. And even in the back here, the only thing I can maybe comment on in terms of negative fit and finish thing is that there were little areas where there's a very slight misalignment back here. I guess if you look at it from the wrong angle, look, it's really good. This knife feels damn near perfect. This is one of the best technically executed knives I've had on my table this year. It's really, really good. And so this is a great design with great manufacturing and a lot of extra little miles here that make for an ultimate result that is just really, really great in execution. So, to me, that's what's great, is technically this is just an excellent piece. On the bad side, steel isn't labeled. Look, it's M390. Say it loud, say it proud. You should be happy about that. Go ahead and throw it on there. Next thing, I don't care for the fuller. That's a matter of taste. Told you I've been sick. But anyways, that is a matter of taste rather than anything else, but I'm not a big fan of it. Next thing, this guy is huge. Look, Brian Nadeau tends to make knives that are freaking enormous. That is his thing. He should call them huge by design rather than sharp by design, but that's just his shtick, and okay, whatever. So it's a little big for my kind of thing. And then, like I mentioned, the only thing I can maybe mention as a fit and finish foul is that these lines feel slightly out of alignment. I guess, if you look at it closely. Does it matter? No, but that's probably the worst thing I can say about it execution-wise. That isn't a matter of taste. So, yeah, that's the bad. Is that's slightly out of alignment. It's huge, which I don't care for. I don't love the fuller, and the steel isn't labeled, but okay. Big freaking deal. On the ugly front for me, I gotta be honest with you here. The freaking flipper tab on Brian Nadeau's knives drives me insane. This is a pocket pecker par excellence. This guy is going to be in your pocket, pecking on whatever's in your pocket all damn day long. And this is almost a bit out of hand. Look, I complain about flipper tabs a lot. I mean, there were very good low-key, sort of low-profile flipper tabs, like this little guy in the Elijah Isham, Mid-Ethereum, etc. But this guy, this is a little much. This is to the point where it is almost obstructing the closing. Because, for instance, as I'm closing this knife, this is how I have my hands here. And so as I slide my thumb through here, it prevents it from closing. But then, very often, I found the flipper tab itself is hitting my finger in the back here and preventing the knife from fully closing. Like, this flipper tab is to the point where it is getting to be very excessive, and I don't really care for the contouring of it either. I know that it's become a trademark for him, you know, to have this weird boot heel manual on the back of his freaking... I can't. I don't understand it. I can't do this flip-a-dab. I mean, please, Brian, collaborate with, like, Elijah Isham just on the flip-a-dab or something like that. Make a thumb stud version or something. That, to me, that is the reason I don't own this knife, or at least I don't have a temptation to... Oh, sorry, Frankie and Bird, lost in the mail. Just because that flip-a-dab drives me nuts. The only other ugly thing is not actually about the knife itself, but it's about the way the knife is being produced, and that is that it seems to be a limited run. What I mean by that is that right now on the Instagram here in, this should be the May of the 2019, Brian is playing coy about whether these are going to be made again. And I'm going to just go ahead and say it. Damn it, Brian, don't make something this good temporary. This is an amazing knife. This is a knife I would recommend to a bunch of freaking people. But the fact that there aren't that many of them makes it really hard for me to do so. I would love to see something like this be made on an ongoing basis. Or you can do full price pre-orders for all I care, but just make them available. Give people a way to sign up, and then I hate the drop system, but this is a case where it could be decent. If we get 300 people committing to buy one, I'll do another round of them. Or something like that. But don't let a knife that's this good die. Don't just kill it at the end of the run. Let this shine. Let it have a future, Brian. I just want you to let this knife have a future. It deserves that, okay? And so, damn it, Brian, limited run is a bad idea, and I really, really hope that this design sticks around. And so those are the ugly things, is limited run, and holy crap, is this a pocket pecker. I mean, it's to the point, too, where, look, I mean, you can't even freaking touch the... there's like half an inch under the blade when you... Anyways, I digress. So to me, that's the ugly here. Final conclusions. This is a knife that reminds me that production isn't a bad word. I don't tend to feel that way anyways, but a lot of folks from the custom domain really are like, oh, that's production. Oh, what a drop in quality. Thing is, though, this knife is as well done as 99% of custom knives. I mean that with all sincerity. There are very, very few custom knife makers who are able to meet this level of fit and finish, this level of action, this level of quality. And it's $300. Now, that's impressive. In fact, I would go so far as to say this is pretty amazing. Brian and Rayot here have created something that is pretty amazing. The action is great. The implementation is great. The design is great. If you're loving Brian Nadeau's aesthetic, this is a great design from him. And honestly, this is a knife I would recommend to damn near everybody. You gotta love a crazy flip-a-tab. But the real turd in the punch bowl here is that availability. I get that these take a while, but please, rolling pre-orders something. Don't kill this after one run. You cannot make a knife this good and then execute it before people can appreciate it. But look, my frustration there comes from appreciation. This is a knife I want to recommend. Although the flip-a-tab takes it out of the running for me, that's personal. That's my own personal taste. I have no qualms, even despite that, calling this a gem. This is a stellar knife. This is a production knife that is just as good as most custom knives out there, and Brian's production line just keeps getting better and better. And I will just keep buying and buying them. Even if they're not to my taste, they're going to be impressive pieces. And I really desperately hope that this is also a sign of what's to come from Rayot, because if they can keep this standard of quality with their future work, oh my God, am I excited for that brand. But nevertheless, this is a really, really good piece. I hope you can get one in the future. Damn it, Brian. And mostly, well done. And well done, Brian. Well done, Rayot. Tell us where to buy more of them. And I really, really desperately hope that this evolution is able to go forth and multiply. So anyways, hope this is interesting to you. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.